Good evening. Good evening, folks. I'm Joko from Ielts Link, Ielts Temple, and EduLink, and I'm here to do another Task 1 review for Rahul Rachamadugu. This would be like the third or fourth one I think I've done, third at least, for Rahul. And I like to do multiple reviews for a student because then I can see if the advice that I'm giving is having an impact. And right off the bat, we can say that it has, but maybe too much so. We'll see when we get to the report. Interesting day today. Briefly, personal things. Felt like today is May 20th. Today is the day that the monsoon arrived here in Myanmar, where I live. Woke up, there's pouring rain, and right now, 1 in the morning, pouring rain on and off throughout the whole day. But the monsoon has arrived. There's a typhoon out, not a typhoon, a cyclone out in the Bay of Bengal causing lots of rain. I wouldn't really notice that much because I didn't leave the house today. That's why I'm wearing this hat. See, one of those days is one of the few last remaining days where I will work all day, 14 hours today, I think, and not leave the house because I work actually better here with this computer. You can't see it because but it's a very big and powerful, fast machine. Not like the little things that we have at work, at school. And there's no students yet. Not yet. But that day is coming. Rahul, you said you would. Also, I haven't been. Wish I was. See, I miss teaching. I really do. I miss teaching IELTS. And I thought that with these IELTS workshops that we've been doing every Monday. First Monday, no one came because we charged money for it. And no one wanted to pay the money or could figure out how, for that matter. Second one was just I didn't promote it, didn't talk about it, didn't advertise it, and it was fairly well attended. 6 or 7 people came. What was interesting was that it was the first time people from other countries other than Myanmar came to one of my workshops. Yeah, so good on you for those of you who came last Monday. It was about Task 1. I'm not presenting the lecture or the discussion. Why am I wearing my hat? Because I didn't leave the house. I haven't showered. My hair is dirty. My colleague was, and he didn't understand the caliber of the people who were coming to the workshop. Treating them like they were beginners. Now, Rahul, you are not a beginner, and many of you are not. And this upcoming workshop on this following Monday, last year when we ran it in the school, we had people out the door. We had bring extra chairs in because the topic is how to support your positions in a Task 2 writing piece in IELTS. How do I support my positions? Wow. That's something everyone wants to know. Except for you, Rahul, because you haven't done anything in Task 2 yet. Just one Task 1 after another, which is fine. I like Task 1s. They are my specialty. So, talk, and let's get to the business. Okay. Now, Rahul, don't say things like this. Dear mentors, please evaluate my essay. Target score, 8. Oh, please. Ho. Yes. Target score is as high as you can get, all right? And don't limit yourself to... Anyway, you're not there yet. What do we got? Let's take it over to Google Slides. Okay, here we are. 46 seconds. All right, so part 2. Man, I want to point out that I'm actually tired. Work is so stressful sometimes. I mark IELTS papers as a form of relaxation. Oh, God. Oh, what have I become? So I wanted to be here. This is a beautiful island resort on a lake here in Myanmar. But I'm not. I'm here with you to talk about Task 1, requirement number 4. Number 4, making comparisons. You see, as I often point out in the any Task 1, there are 4 requirements of the task. They are the 4 verbs that you find in the instructions, in the latter half of the instructions, where it says summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main information. Okay? Yeah, most people do that part fine. But people forget to make comparisons where relevant. It's one of the instructions. And so, where relevant means it's about the important stuff, not unimportant comparisons. We'll see how many comparisons do we get here in this essay. Yes. We make comparison. We got it. And here's the task that he chose to put out here. Now, Rahul, I'll say right off the bat, we're 7 minutes into the bat, that this is an exercise from an Ielts textbook or workbook or some kind of thing like that, or the online equivalent of it. This by itself is actually, it's just not enough to be a Task 1 essay. There's not enough, you'll see simple line graphs like this, but not just one. That would be combined with some other form of graphical information. Very simple to be the whole of a question. Yeah. What do we find? When I analyze this, when I look at it, okay, we got music. Sales by method. By method? Like method of sales? No, by recording medium. Media. Okay, so back in 2011, CDs were still the dominant form of music being sold, far outselling the other two. 5 to 55. In fact, the majority, the majority of music was sold on CD because it's over 50. All right, and then what happens at the end? The opposite. Okay? What was the highest is now the lowest. What's lowest is now the highest. Now, Rahul, I don't know if you got this tirade of mine of people who jump to the highest and lowest automatically without taking enough time to really analyze it. Now, what do you see when you see this graph? Folks, people out there watching and listening? All right, so here was the lowest, now the highest. This one here, not big change. It's up and down. Now, that's the most significant feature. That CDs was the most popular form, and now it is third. From top to bottom, and from bottom to top. That's another story that you can tell. And that's what I would base my overview on. Fish. Okay. So now, in the first sentence and the overview, you simply want to state what the graphic represents, using your own words as much as possible. Paragraph 2 is going to be your overview, which is a 1 or 2 sentence paragraph that reports the 2 most important far-reaching ideas. And I would go with rags to riches and bottom to top. I know I constantly rail against people for automatically looking at the highest and the lowest. And I think that's what this textbook version of a Task 1 is trying to get people to do, and then use that to present a good comparison. Okay, and then body paragraph 1 and 2. This is like your overview should be split into 2 halves, 2 sentences hopefully, if not 2 clauses. And you use the first body paragraph to talk about the first part of the overview and the second 4 about the other. And then throw in any extra notes that are needed to give a complete picture. So before we take a look at the essay here, let's see how it did when I punched it into wordcounter.net. 183, sure. Wow, one sentence is 47 words long. I guarantee you that's not going to be grammatically correct. And, oh, I know why. Probably the faulty punctuation. Now, here at the bottom, we see certain words and their frequency. You use the word sales 7 times. Purchases. Vending. A year 7 times. Now, it's hard to get around that, but there are ways. Let's have a look. Okay, so here's once again our graph. And there's the introduction. Graph illustrates the trends in music sales between the periods 2011 and 2018. No, sorry. The graph illustrates the trends. I guess it could. You've already decided that they exist. Okay. In music sales between the periods of 2011 and 2018. No, incorrect preposition there. We'll say from, or in the period from 2011 to 2018. Okay, now I expect you to go out and buy furniture for your Ielts test, but you say that. Okay, so trend periods, no, from the years, the number of sales, the amount of sales is presented in the form of proportions for 3 different music formats, which are streams, downloads, and CDs. You do this a lot. You put a which onto an already complex sentence. Once a sentence is complex, if you want to make it even more complex, then you're going to add those. And you don't want to do that because it often leads... Oh. The amount of sales. Okay. It's good of you to notice that it's in proportions, but it's not the important information on the chart. It really isn't. 3 different formulas, which are streams, downloads, and CDs purchased. I know it says it on the graph, but it's just awkward. Something with method up there. Where did this question come from? Not a very good question. It doesn't illustrate the trends. It illustrates the changes. You have to point out the trends. And that whole second sentence is not needed at all. It really isn't. You will get to talking about. You will eventually talk about the different formats, and individually. And when you do so, you're going to mention them. So now, when you do that, you're repeating yourself. And here's the overview. Everything is so important about the overview. And instead of orange, you get red. CDs saw a steady decrease for the interval. True. While streaming initially increased steadily, okay, for 2011 to 2018. Now I'll let 13. Now, parallelism. Did I mention it before? I don't know. But I mentioned it in other. It's a high-level grammar structure or grammar rule, but it really improves the readability. What is meant by parallelism? Shelley does a blog or video on it, but I'm going to briefly tell you that when you have a structure that is either a list of things or 2 halves separated by a conjunction of some kind, like while, the form of the words, okay, the word, the word form, should be the same. So here we have, okay, streaming, CDs saw a steady decrease for the interval, while streaming saw a steady increase. In other words, it saw a noun. I wouldn't say saw again, but blank a noun. Here your decrease is a noun. Here your increase is a verb. While streaming, and they should be the CD, while CDs decreased for the interval, too many conjunctions in there. Streaming initially increased steadily for 2001 to 2013. No details. Do not present details in your overview. It's an overview. It's not for details. Okay? Thereafter, after that, it rose sharply. Well, what is it? It increased steadily. Thereafter, it rose sharply. Okay, what's the difference between steadily and sharply? Well, there is a difference, but it's not here, that's for sure. From 2011 to 2013. For downloads. Okay. We're still in the overview here. No details like this. See, you've given a description of everything. And there's no summarizing going on here. And what are you going to do in your body paragraphs? All right. Yeah. No details. You certainly don't want to include all the details in your overview. That could be your task 1 right there, finished. Years, specific years, are a detail. Poor, I don't have the COVID, I really don't. As I noted, parallel structuring. Once again, there was a noun after that, and then verb. It's good that you're varying the use of increase and decrease as verbs in some cases. That's good. And nouns in other cases. That's good. That's very good. That'll help you. Okay, here we have decrease as a noun. Here we have decrease as a verb. But it'll good for your Lexis, but bad for your grammar because you're not putting them together right. Remember, you want things to look the same on both halves of the and, or whatever other conjunction you're using. Okay, what is it? Okay, till the end of 2018. Really? If you ask me, CDs, stops, right about there, right in the middle. We don't know it was the end of 2018. Huh? Go away. Huh. Okay. Now, your overview. First part of the overview talked about I've never had these chips before. They're strong. Extremely flavorful. Seaweed and barbecue. I apologize if you are watching this in the daytime. I know it's Ramadan, but it's the middle of the night right now. Okay. So, the overview talked about CDs and streams. So I would expect the first paragraph to talk about CDs and streams. In 2011, the streams, downloads, and CDs had the proportion. Okay, now, very common thing in this country where I live, a common grammar error that they have is called, I call it, it's supposed to be, okay, in 2011. That is a time clause. Any time clause, a phrase, actually time phrase. In 2011, yesterday, for the last 5 years, someday, a million years from now, any time phrase requires a comma at the end if you start a sentence with it. The streams. Okay. The streams, downloads, and CDs had the proportions. Have confusion. I guess they can have the proportions, but it's very clunky. Oh, and CDs, 55%. Now don't put a really important detail like this in parentheses. Parentheses are for like beyond just extra information. Like really unimportant things. Oh, by the way, here, this is the most important thing when you compare it to like what happens at the end. The downloads sales. You need a the sale of music. That's what people bought, right? Music sold by download rose to a peak of around 40%. No? I see that about 43%. This figure dropped to 30% in the year 2018. No. In the year, it had dropped to 30%. Had dropped. Yeah? It happened before the year 2018. It didn't happen in 2018. We've already used while. I'll use it again. Okay. Well, the sales of CD hit the bottom. Oh, man. The bottom? That's not the bottom number on this chart. Hit the bottom. What does that mean? Hit bottom? Hit bottom is like a personal thing. When people like get into a really bad place in life because of their own problems, they hit bottom. It's too informal for this kind of task. Hit the bottom in the year 2018. Which, now here we have a big problem with your relative pronouns. Many people do this. Which, what does it mean? 25%. It was the sales of CDs. Now, you need to put that which as close as possible to what you're talking about. The sales of CDs, comma, which were, not have, were around 25% of the sales, decreased steadily until they, and all these years and numbers, you're only comparing, you're not comparing anything. You're just describing the change. There's no comparisons except for one, highest sales for the year. That's about as close as it gets. Why not say that CDs were 25% and they were up at 55%. They fell to less than half. Less than half. Now you're comparing 2 points in time and connecting them and describing the difference not in numbers but in proportions and carrier verbs. For the streaming, comma, I guess, for streaming music, the sales overtook CDs in the year 2016 and downloads in the year 2017. In the year after that, it reached its summit. No? Okay. Same thing with hitting the bottom before. I know you're trying to show off your chart-related vocabulary, but summit, think of it. Where do you find summits? At mountains. It's only appropriate to use summit to describe and then a and then a in the middle. The highest point, and it is, but the highest point with lower points after it. It has to look like a mountain. How do we know? I guarantee you that, I can't be sure, but I would think that streams as a percentage of the music sold, would go up, even continue to go up even more. It's not the summit. Oh, I got extra ones from the previous one. So that's the end of it there. Too simple of a chart for you at this point if you're trying to get an 8. And there's no comparisons. Compare not just, and again, not just over the x-axis, but the y-axis as well. The dominant media at the start of the term, at the start of the period, came the least purchased by the end, and the least purchased, and then I wouldn't even mention the names in the overview. Maybe you might. At the outset, in 2011, CD sales were about 150% of the combined sales of downloadable music and streaming music. No, not right here. 5%, 35, 40. Yeah, 150%. Well, no, not quite. But you could say it was more than 10 times. CD sales were 10 times the sales of streaming music in percentage. And but at the end, compare this way. Here it went from 55 to 25. It fell by half. Compare this way, 5 to 45. Almost a tenfold increase. Oh, you can't see what I'm pointing at. Yeah. Now here it's not going to be that much.